Hello, 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 and welcome to the virtual Q&A for the screening of Workhorse Queen as part of the 2021 Image Out Lesbian Gay Film Festival in Rochester, New York. I'm your host, Eric Resniak, and I am so excited to be here tonight talking to not only the writer and director of Workhorse Queen, but also the cast, which includes the luminaries of Rochester, New York drag. So first, I would like to welcome Angela Washgow, the writer and director of the film. Hi, Angela.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming. It's a wonderful movie, and uh, I wanted to first ask you, how did you come to find Kasha as your subject? What was it about Kasha that spoke to you?
Yeah, thanks for asking, and thanks for, of course, having Workhorse Queen at the Image Out Film Festival. As a performance and media artist and curator of performance events, often including drag, I've been interested in RuPaul's Drag Race since it started. I've watched all the seasons, and across all of the seasons of the show, Mrs. Kasha Davis always really stood out to me. Even though maybe she didn't get as much airtime as she should have. But yeah, her very specific character, I was very drawn to her decision to embody this 60s housewife who was married. It's not Miss Kasha Davis, it's not Kasha Davis, it's Mrs. Kasha Davis. And I really appreciated that her drag persona it felt situated in the home. It felt like a very specific homage to the underappreciated domestic labor that women have done historically. So I got really excited about this persona, and then started, looking closer and closer, and became even more invested in Mrs. Kasha Davis's commitment to the Rochester community, which we're going to see later. Ed's very specific coming out story, his relationship with his husband, and how his husband plays a part of his drag career, the inspiration that women have been to his drag, and how drawn women are to Mrs. Kasha Davis, and the celebration they see in her drag. And I became even more invested in Ed's commitment to becoming the queer role model for kids that he never had growing up. And while also seeing at the same time the way that Drag Race as a platform allowed Mrs. Kasha Davis to share her drag with the world, while also seeing the way that Drag Race was creating sort of a division within Mrs. Kasha Davis's drag community. So I thought that this, was a story and a perspective that we haven't seen told yet about the phenomenon of Drag Race. And I thought, with the resources that I have as an artist and a professor, that maybe I would be the right person to do it if Mrs. Kasha Davis would say yes to my email. So here we are.
Here we are, and clearly you were, because it's a great film, and it's Workhorse Queen. Excuse me, I stumbled over my words. And with that, why don't we bring in the stars of Workhorse Queen, specifically Mrs. Kasha Davis and her husband, Mr. Stephen Davis. Hello, Kasha and Stephen.
Hello, hello. Now, Mr. Davis, does this go on speaker?
It does, yes.
Okay, can you
press the red button?
Push that button right there. This modern technology I have here in Fairport, New York.
You did it. God on a wheel.
God on a wheel. Oh my God.
Well, Kasha, tell me, what did it feel like? So Angela sent you an email, said, I'm interested in doing a movie about you. What did you think?
Well, listen, first and foremost, Angela, I like to call her my angel, and she can't stand it. But honestly, Mr. Davis and I had all these videos and things, and she was able to take the information and streamline it and tell the story better than we were able to. And so I got this email, and here's someone who's a professor at Carnegie Mellon, and asking if she could make a film about us. And of course I said immediately, all caps, yes. But then what was great is we met at Gine's, and she brought cupcakes. So that sealed the deal.
Done. Yeah. Amazing. So what was it like seeing your whole life turned into a movie? What was that like, watching it?
Well, it's just surreal.
It is, yeah.
You know, I mean, we sit here and we'll see a review come through, or Angela and I will be participating in another talk, and I'll see, you know, prior to it, the footage of the screen. And I said to Mr. Davis, I said, did you know that our story is on a movie screen? It's almost, it's become something better than I would have expected right from the get-go. You know, I enjoyed, and I'm very grateful for the experience of RuPaul's Drag Race. But this, as Angela mentioned earlier, is a way for us to tell a story, and to tell our story with the utmost honesty and love for my friends they're going to be coming on here, my husband, the community, and you know, just tell that truth in a way that was never been able to be shown for me as a child.
Yeah, and the thing about this movie is there's so much heart in it. Like, you're really, like, there's struggles, but there's so much humanity and joy in it too. I really love that. And Mr. Davis, you're such an integral part to Kasha, a career, a person. You know, what was it like for you to be, like, you've been there right by her side the whole time, to see all this now play out?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we put our life out there on YouTube for years and years, for the small screen, never expecting it to be on the big screen. So it's just amazing to watch it on the big screen, and to have everybody in the world share with what I have every day.
So sweet. Well, and you know, I made him wear this sequin coat, and he's wearing shorts, but that's Zoom for you.
Yeah, I'm not wearing pants at all.
Exactly.
So just to be clear.
Everything's hanging out. But
exactly.
You know, Mr. Davis is not just my life partner, but we're business partners in this venture of Mr. and Mrs. Davis. And I couldn't ask for a better, you know, team member and partner in life, and as well in performance. So
amazing. Yeah. So for those who haven't seen the film yet, it really does chronicle Kasha's start, even pre-drag, and then when you got into drag, etc., and then goes into your current kind of trajectory. I was curious, in the film, Aggie mentions that as soon as you went on stage for the first time, you had a vision for who Kasha Davis was in your head. Is that true?
Absolutely. So my upbringing is in theater. And so when I would go out to see Pandora and Ambrosia and Darian and Aggie, I enjoyed their performances, but I didn't see myself necessarily doing drag. I would dress up to go to see the shows or whatever, but they were just beautiful gals. And I'm like, I don't see that I would ever do that. But then I saw Miss Richfield 1981, and I saw a realized character who told stories, and she didn't look so great. And I thought, I did that.
But you also look great, Kasha. Let's just put that out there too.
Well, now stop. But I came back home, and on the whole trip back from P-Town, we talked about it. And why? Because in my theater mind too, I saw a character that wasn't being represented in that cast that I said I want to be a part of. They're the Rochester superstars, and I want to line up with them in a way that, you know, they wouldn't want to do the songs I did or whatever.
Well, you could not have put in a better intro for the rest of our guests on this panel. So I want to bring in the Rochester superstars, as Kasha just mentioned. We are so blessed to have literal legends, Aggie Doon, Darian Lake, and joining us from LA, Pandora Box. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So good to see all of you. Thank you so much for joining. I wanted to ask you, Kasha mentioned that she was inspired by Miss Richfield 1981, when kind of that triggered her explosion into drag. For all of you, was there that icon? Was there that legend that you saw performing and you were like, that's what I want to do? That is it for me. Aggie, for you?
Well, for me, it was all back just a few decades ago. And it would be, you know, watching TV with my mom, and we'd watch the Sonny and Cher show. And that, what, you know, she's my spirit animal. And I saw her on the small screen there, but, you know, to me, it was bigger than life. And when I saw her, I told my mother at that moment, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. And she was like, what, a singer? I said, no, fabulous. So I've just kind of modeled myself after that ever since. And well, here I am, still around.
And still fabulous.
Oh.
Darian.
Yeah, when I was like first sort of coming out and everything, or even before that, I think Boy George and seeing how a boy could be pretty, that was really inspiring to me. And then RuPaul had Supermodel, and So that was the beginnings of my drag career. And then we just started going to Rocky Horror Picture Show, and one of the Frankenfurters was Miss Aggie Dune. And I was like, is that a guy? Is that a girl? And then I looked for the hair and the bulge, and I knew. So.
And what about you, Pandora?
Well, I didn't really know much about drag because I was just sheltered, I guess. And I really loved Madonna and women like Goldie Hawn, who could be funny and goofy. And the first time I ever saw a drag queen was live in person. It was Darien Lake at the Park Ave Festival. And people were giving her money and cheering for her. And she's lip syncing songs. And I'm like, I do this in my bedroom. People will give me money for it. Sign me up, please.
Well, you all kind of mentioned that Rochester really has this amazing drag scene. And that's mentioned in the movie as well. There really is. I think, Aggie, you joke in the film that it's because of the Kodachrome and the chemicals in the water. Mm-hmm. But in all seriousness, Rochester has a drag scene that's really on par with any place else you go in the world, if not better. And I was curious from each of you, what do you think it is about this scene that has produced such really amazing talent? Kasha, can I go to you first?
Sure. For me, it's the feeling of family. Much like in the theater world, you end up working together and have that family unit. I came onto the scene right after Marcella's close and eventually met Naomi Kane. And to me, she was that drag mom for me. But then each of these gals have taught me so much in a very shady way sometimes. But at the same time, just like family, just like sisters, sometimes we want to choke each other, and then we will always be there for each other. So it's very, very special. And I've noticed in traveling that it's difficult to see it elsewhere.
Yeah. Pandora, what about for you? What was it about Rochester? Now, I know you're in LA now, but you were in Rochester for many years. What did you find about the scene?
I guess because there just happens to be a lot of LGBTQ people that live in Rochester, and it tends to be more of an artistic community, or at least there's a strong artistic community there. So I think that's what for me, it was a big city because I graduated from Canandaigua, and I was like, oh, it's a big city. Mm-hmm. And there was just a lot of culture and stuff there. And I think that helped, create a great drag community. And there just also was a lot of really good drag queens, and more drag queens grew from them because you throw a little liquor on one drag queen and 5 more pop off like gremlins.
Exactly. What about you, Darien?
I think it's because the winters are really long and cold, so we have nothing else to do than sit in our house and make things and be creative. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think also we didn't have multiple drag bars. Usually there was one drag bar that everyone went to and performed at. So there wasn't that, we were able to be more like a family and close to each other and help each other out and bounce off of each other some things and also compete with each other. So.
Well, Aggie, you call yourself the supreme of the Rochester drag scene. I think that is absolutely true in the very best way.
I don't know if you know this, but Aggie Dune is the first drag queen.
That's
period.
First one. Period. How has the Rochester scene changed over the years?
I think it's just evolved. I think Rochester, what makes it so incredibly special, especially when it comes to drag, is that it's not just a little pocket within the community that appreciates it. It is the entire community of Rochester really celebrates our drag here. And it has always been something that has been supported and attended and applauded, whether it's the LGBT community or the straight community. Kasha and I have, we branched out to the suburbs. Yeah, we were out in Greece at a strip mall in a buffet Italian restaurant, making our mark. But it's the amazing part of Rochester is that because, as Pandora said, that the community here is so embracive and supportive, it gives all of us the freedom to really express ourselves. And I think that it hasn't changed. It's just evolved. There's just a new crop of queens that, sprung off of me when Pandora dumped that drink on me. And so they're just all coming up and there's little gremlins everywhere, but all of them just create more ripples in that pond that we call Rochester. And it's just wonderful. So I'm so thankful to have really started my career doing drag, and I'm still here, but here in Rochester because the community is just so wonderful.
One of the things you've mentioned, and it's kind of a theme in the film as well, is this found family. This kind of you're all sisters, right? And I wondered watching it, is it harder to find that now in an age where everything's so saturated in social media, where you don't make those in-person connections anymore, or is it easier because everyone's connected and it's easy to find, new drag queens are starting up based on what they see on Instagram, etc. Is there that same kind of family dynamic that was there when you all started out, which is, just a few minutes ago? But I'll go to you first, Kasha.
Well, it's this particular group. I remember saying to Mr. Davis, when Aggie called to ask me to do something, I was like, oh my gosh, I could be lined up with this particular group of queens. And so I really believe that it's still possible. It's still there. We definitely have our Wednesday Westwood and, other queens within the Rochester community. Now, sometimes people reach out from social media, will you be my drag mom? And the answer is no. And then also, will you adopt us? And we say no. We're about to, we're looking forward to the grandchildren part of our kids. We don't need any more kids. So, I've learned that no is a good answer sometimes too. But so I think it's possible. It's amazing how, I've had communication with people all over the world for different reasons, about drag suggestions, but then I've had a gal come to me from Australia about sobriety. I mean, it's just, so in that type of way, social media has opened it up in a positive.
Yeah. Switching gears for a second, one of the things that's talked about in the film, Aggie, is you kind of have this experience of going through what I would call the emotional thresher of auditioning for Drag Race. And you were very open about it, and I found it very moving. I was wondering, where are you with that now? Are you feeling like you're in a good place?
Well, I've come to grips that auditioning for RuPaul's Drag Race is like filing your taxes. You just have to do it every year. You hope that you get a refund or a call, but most times you just pay. So I'm still hopeful. I still think I've got something that could contribute to the scene on the big TV there on the VH1. But you know what? I'm thrilled when one of us here in Rochester succeeds. We all succeed, and I think this film really kind of brings that home, because Kasha did this film with Angela, and her main thing is that she wanted everybody else involved because we are one big community. And so, yeah, have I made a peace with it? Yeah, sure. I say that dreams do not have an expiration date, but they definitely have a best if used by date. So
I love that. And I have to say, as a fan of yours, a fan of the show, I desperately hope you get on, because the world needs to see your talent, Aggie. You are incredible, and everyone is missing out. That's the thing. But I'm hoping out for you, because I know you're amazing. So best of luck on that. Angela, I do want to follow up that and ask, it's a movie ostensibly about Kasha's journey, but you really did include so many of the people from the scene. It became about more than just Kasha. What was the decision behind that? Was that your intention when you started it?
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, I think because I'm also coming from a background of participating in performance communities, I think, since RuPaul's Drag Race is the, most visible mainstream platform for drag and queer performance to a certain extent, the reality competition format, doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with the type of community cooperation that goes on behind the scenes in performance communities. So from the start, I think that was something that I was really drawn to, how prolific the Rochester drag community is, and wanting to, of course I was following Mrs. Kasha Davis, but, community was always something that was important to her, and very obvious in just following the journey and coming into town, and then also touring. But I think there was a kind of, a fork in the road or left turn with Aggie Dune's story, because I actually interviewed Aggie more than once. And the first time, the interview was super positive. Mrs. Kasha Davis is amazing. Let me sing her praises. And you can tell actually in the film, those are like shot in the salon. The spoiler, whatever. the second interview, when I came back, it was like, you know, a year and a half or maybe 2 years later, after, you know, 2 or 3 more audition tapes were shot. And, you know, the relationship that Aggie had with Drag Race at that point was a lot more frustrating than it was when I initially came to interview her. So yeah, it felt like a trajectory I could either suppress or follow. And I think ultimately it felt really meaningful to look at that perspective. And, you know, also with following Wednesday Westwood and realizing, you know, how frequently Wednesday Westwood was auditioning and what that also what that economic relationship to drag looks like as well, when you know, you're a part of a community that has 3 queens from Rochester who've been on the show, and you're, you know, performing with them and not necessarily having that same visibility or economic experience. So
Speaking of the 3 queens of Rochester who have been on the show, so Kasha, you're very open in the film about your journey on Drag Race, the kind of anticipation of getting on, all the expectations that you put on yourself, and then the roller coaster that happened afterwards. Looking back on it, especially through the kind of lens of this film, do you have a different perspective on Drag Race? Is this something that you would do again?
Oh God, yes. I mean, everybody knows that. I would go to the opening of an envelope. The reality is Drag Race has enabled me to make drag my full-time career. Now, when I look back at Drag Race, I think to myself, first of all, she was starving. And I thought that was, you had to be skinny to be a drag queen. And I wasn't sober. And I was sort of just, in some ways, I just felt new to drag in a way. Looking back at it, I've learned so much from touring and working with Darian and continuing to work with Aggie and continuing to work with Pandora and the other queens. And so I look forward to that opportunity. To me, the way I put it out into the universe is that the next All-Stars opportunity will be Miss Darian Lake, myself, and Pandora. Darian's going to win. I'll be on for a couple episodes, but I'll give him a good shot.
We're going to manifest that into the universe. Absolutely.
You do. You have to manifest those things. And so to me, that's how I kind of look at those things. But again, it's that group. And boy, could we put on some arguments and some really good reality television, because we've got some stuff that we can go back to.
Ooh, the Bone Collector. I love it. Pandora, you're the one who kind of started it, right? You're on season 2. How has your journey been with the show?
I mean, it's a lot. It changed my life, definitely. And we shot it 12 years ago. So it's crazy that it's been a decade that I've been on the show, but I'm very thankful because I've been able to have a career because of Drag Race. And yeah, I don't remember the question.
That's fine. You did a great job answering it. Darian, what about yourself?
I'm sorry. I lost focus there with the question. What was that?
I was asking if you have any, would you do Drag Race again? Would you have your opinions on it changed since your time on the show?
Yeah, I would. I'm hesitant to say it because lately there have been a lot of articles about how expensive it is and how it's like a mortgage on your house, spending it all on these looks, and you don't know how many episodes you're going to make it in. So is it an investment? Are you going to recoup this money? And really, that's, to me, one of the factors that keeps me from really jumping to it. But you know, I don't know, I guess if that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, or if that's where you think it's going to take you, if it's going to be worth it. So,
Let's face the facts. Darian Lake has to buy more costumes than most because she's on this fitness and weight loss journey, and she just keeps getting smaller.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, at least they'll be like cheaper now if they're smaller, so less fabric.
There you go.
Less fabric.
Kasha, you mentioned earlier that when you were initially on Drag Race, you were not sober. That was a kind of a big emotional moment in this film. Was you talking about your challenges with sobriety? And I was wondering, was it difficult to talk about that in such a public forum?
You know, I have always felt that it's best to, no, I have not always felt. Since I've been on my sober journey, I've felt that it's best to be as honest and open about as much as possible. And a lot of times that helps because, you know, my catchphrase that Pandora and I came up with is there's always time for a cocktail. Well, that was a great one. And, you know, people are like, say mocktail. I'm like, ugh, no. So, you know, I had to find ways to use the jokes and to go down that road. I mean, I think realistically, you know, the sobriety journey for me has made the whole drag experience better. I remember what I'm supposed to do sometimes now, which is great, except that I've gotten older and that happens to be a little bit of that train in the tunnel. So I don't know. That's probably my best answer for that.
It's a good answer. Mr. Davis, when I was watching it, it struck me that there are probably a lot of couples that are going through a similar journey, both in the LGBTQ community and not. And I was wondering if you had any advice to give to someone who's a partner to someone who's struggling with that. What would you say to them?
I would say that, you know, you have to help them any way you can, but really you have to make sure that you're the one that's being okay, because ultimately it's up to them to get sober. And if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. There's nothing that you can do. So you have to take care of yourself. But I was there to support them as much as I could when I could.
Yeah, an amazing support. And I think, you know, it is ultimately your own decision. And that journey is not for everybody. Just because somebody drinks and gets a little tipsy or even full on drunk on occasion doesn't mean they're an alcoholic. You know, but I'm glad to have been able to share that aspect of it. And frankly, you know, at first I was slightly hesitant to share as openly as I did as the time went on. But the more I grew closer with Angela and the trust was there and she just kept hammering and we kept doing interviews, I just like was one day was like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Keep it.
And Angela, did you see that happening as you were following? Because you were filming over how long of a period? It sounds like it was a few years.
I think it was almost 3 years. Yeah, you know, I think at a certain point, you know, as you follow someone like this, you know, you start to develop more trust because you're having, you know, frequent conversations. I was re-interviewing Mrs. Costa Davis / Ed Popel, like every time I would come into town to film or every time we would go on tour. And, you know, I think at a certain point, I think it was when we were at DragCon, you know, Mrs. Costa Davis likes to be like, hello, we're at DragCon. It's wonderful. It's amazing. Here's this person. Let's go like figure out who they are, which it's so amazing and endearing and such a gift to be able to experience that all the time. But I had to, at a certain point, just be like, okay, we don't need any more of that kind of introduction. What we really need is for what people don't get to see is you just being sort of honest about your experience and letting some of the guard down and letting us in. We get to see Mrs. Costa Davis explaining how wonderful things are. You know, in many different, you know, media environments. But I thought for the film, something that this film could do that maybe some of the other media that exist following, the mainstreamization of drag would be to see some, like, what is this experience really like? What is the labor behind the scenes like? How do you feel not getting to use the bathroom for 14 hours at DragCon? How does that feel? You know, let's talk about it. Some of that didn't make it into the film ultimately, unfortunately, but we have a lot for special features, I think.
Yeah, she's referring to the time when I said to the camera, I'm like, I just peed my pants.
Oh, I assumed there was a catheter situation, but thank you. So look forward to the special features, everyone. You really did a great job of making Kasha a very human and fully realized person on that screen. One of the other moments, and I swear this is the last like sad thing I'll bring up, I promise, was when you're discussing your relationship with your father and the very difficult time you had in your childhood, but then that really lovely moment when he came and he saw you in drag. And I was I know a lot of other people have those issues with their parents in the gay community. And you seem to be saying you chose forgiveness. I think that's literally what you said. Can you speak on that and about the strength that you had to find to do that and what it means to you now?
Well, that process took a long time. My father and I I don't remember memories early on of us ever getting along. And as I grew older, that just seemed to we grew separate. After my mom passed, we began to get a little closer. And then in my sobriety journey, I started to realize I was responsible for a half of that relationship. Even though some of the things that were done were out of my control, the reality was I needed to take a look at it and have a conversation and possibly forgive him. And when I started to do that and we had those real conversations and gave him a chance, he was able to explain that in some ways he was trying to protect me the best way he knew how. And when it was so funny though, when I said to him when he said to me that he was going to come and see my show at the Toyota dealership, because that's how much of a celebrity I am, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I literally was like, I'm going to poop my pants. Like, Dad, I'm going to be in a dress, And he came around the backstage to the dressing room, which is also the sales department, and, was just like, Eddie, not Kasha. He said, Eddie, you're beautiful. And I know the way he expressed that, it was truth. He told the truth. And even my sister, we were all speechless. And in a typical parental way, he went on to tell everybody, all of his friends, oh, there were hundreds of people there. There were like 30. It was, he sang so beautifully. No. You know what I mean? So it was so special. And that gift is the biggest surprise, I think, that I've had in my lifetime, because I was accepted the fact that we were never going to be close. And if he passed away, I'll be respectful and be there. But we actually ended up having a relationship. And I actually initiated the words, I love you, which I can't even believe. And I did it one day while I was putting my makeup on. And we were on speakerphone together. And I was like, what did I just say? So I'm so glad that that's on film for people as a possibility.
Yeah, I'm dead inside clinically, but even I got teary at that moment in the film. So thank you very much. That really resonated with me. So seriously, thank you. One of the great moments in the film is watching you do the story times with the kids. And you've been doing that for a couple years now. And I was wondering, what do you find out of that experience? It really seemed like the footage, you could see you so alive in that. Is that how you feel when you're working with the children?
Oh my gosh, yes. And honestly, Mr. Davis and I, because of the pandemic, the first thing I thought is, what can I do? What can we do for the community? And we ended up putting out 100 Storytime Lives. And I almost didn't repeat a costume.
Wow.
That's their, addiction moves into other avenues, the shopping problem. But so, I love it. So much so that if I only ever did drag as a story time kind of atmosphere, that would be great. And currently we're in the works of putting together a pilot, and it's going to be all Rochester-based artists, production team, and everything here in conjunction with Blackfriars Theater and Fish and Crown Creative. So I'm so excited about that. More to come. And I know that my hope is to have, some of my drag sisters participate, depending on which can be around kids for a little bit. I don't know. We have to see. Darian's shaking her head. No.
Angela, that kind of dovetails with one of my questions for you, which is the joy of drag. And it kind of came up multiple times throughout the film. How about it's almost necessary in some cases, especially when there was the footage from the drag brunch, which, by the way, if you are in Rochester and you've never been to an Edibles drag brunch with this amazing group of women, please go. There's one coming up, right?
Yes, May 23rd. We're getting our drag brunch life back together with 3 seatings, and of course we have our fabulous Carlson, where we bring in Pandora for that as well. So we're still rooted here in Rochester with some shows that we produce.
Amazing. Simone, who unfortunately passed at the end of the movie, she's someone who is going through breast cancer treatment. I believe she said she drove 24 hours to go to this drag brunch.
Yes.
And she said, I'm doing this because I need to refill my joy tank or my joy meter. That was incredibly special. And I was wondering, were you picking up on that kind of magic of drag as you were filming throughout the film?
So we actually filmed that interview with Simone. It was the first weekend that we went up to film. We had been through a drag story hour, and then that night there was a performance at Rain Lounge. And then the next morning, like very bright and early, with very little, there was a drag brunch. And I've been to drag brunch in other cities, in New York and LA and in Pittsburgh, where I live now. And so I've seen a lot of drag brunch. And I have to say the Rochester drag brunch was at first, I had heard that there was this woman who's coming from Ottawa who has been through cancer, and she's spending time with all of the queens, that Mrs. Kasha Davis sort of set this up. I was like, why is she coming for a drag brunch? Because I hadn't seen it yet. And then when I saw it, I really understood the way that, each of the queens really, made it this very generous experience for everybody who goes. It's super packed. But Simona, I changed the project for me. I had a hunch that I was onto something, and I had a plan, and I had some energy behind it. But interviewing Simona, it was really like, this is why I'm doing this project. This is how much this community means to someone. And this is what she's drawing from to carry her through this, intense experience with late stage cancer. We were sobbing. Scott Andrew was with me filming. We were just sobbing through the whole thing. It was so intense, even more intense, I think, than you get to see in the film. But she really made me feel like, this is a project that needs to happen. And so I'll stop talking about that before I get upset.
No, I get it. It really did, again, kind of hammer home for me that drag is kind of an essential art form in and of itself. And obviously we're kind of still in the midst of the COVID pandemic, and it has had a profound impact on all the performing arts. So I wanted to ask all of our queens, how have you had to pivot during all of this? How have you tried to make it work? And what is your plan moving forward? I want to start with Pandora, if I could.
Well, at first there was just panic mode because I watched all my gigs cancel for like the whole rest of the year last year. And then it kind of gave me a sense of calm because I think sometimes I tend to focus on what other people are getting and who's working more and am I still relevant? And when there was nothing for anybody, no one had any jobs. It just gave me that sense of like, oh, I don't have to worry for a little bit. I'm good. And so it kind of put drag in a different perspective where I still want to be successful and still do well, but I'm not so wrapped up in what everyone else is doing. And thankfully there's been digital drag shows. We've done a couple of the Rochester Gal shows, which have been really fun on Zoom. And I mean, that's really what's helped me make it through is these digital shows.
Darian, what about you?
Yeah, I think like at first there was that panic, and then a little bit of like when you've been doing drag for so many years, you're a little bit like, this is a nice break. Like I don't have to do anything, which is great to have that time off. And then, like a lot of people, you have those days or moments of being so creative and excited. And then especially with quarantine lockdown, when you're by yourself, you have those days of, I don't want to do anything and not even shower or anything and just sort of be down on yourself. But then you sort of kick yourself out of it and want to figure out things. And luckily, like Kasha's always very like very forward thinking and like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do the so getting you sort of motivated in a way. And I didn't say she pesters you at all. I'm waiting. I was waiting messages at 7:06 in the morning saying, I got a gig. Okay, great. So yeah, that, and then also, just figuring out like what you have for your drag and what you want, and you know, it gives you a time to like, you know, like Bianca Del Rio says, wash your wigs, clean your outfits, soak your bras, you know, all that stuff. So that was, I guess, good. And then, you know, you start to look at other options, digital shows, or maybe go to Florida because there's no such thing as COVID down there. So
Right.
there. So, you know, make sure you don't post anything on social media because then people will attack you and be like, it's a pandemic. I'm like, I know.
Exactly. How about you, Aggie? How have you kind of pivoted during this whole experience, we'll call it?
And it's an experience.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I kind of, like, to Darian's point, it was the first time I actually had time away from drag. I mean, I've been performing for 40 years, but and to have all of that, and just, it was just such a machine of just going and going, and then to suddenly the brakes are on and you have no choice. I was like, I could take a breath. And maybe it's time to clean out a few closets and let some things go. And, you know, take that time to like really kind of refocus. What do you want to do when it all comes back? You don't want to wait until like, hey, everybody, COVID's gone. Let's get back out there. And you're like, oh, I should start thinking of something. So it was like, you know, take a look at your drag, start making some new clothes and some new hair and write some new jokes, or at least steal somebody else's jokes, and just kind of like refocus. But yeah, Kasha, she was our biggest cheerleader through this whole thing of saying, okay, guys, we're going to be doing a show. We're going to be doing another Zoom, and we're all going to do it. It's the Rochester Girls. Yay, let's get out there. And we realized how much the community needed that. But once we finished doing it, we realized how much we needed that as well. So it was sort of that like kind of reconnecting on a more personal level with each other. So it was kind of, I always look at this event as more of a pause to kind of reset your life and reevaluate what the things are that are most important and the people that are most important, and appreciate them more. So it was nice to have a break, but now we're back out there working every day.
What about Team Davis? For you, it does not surprise me to hear that you were the one cheerleading everything, because if there's anything we learned from Workhorse Queen, is that you never stop, Kasha. You just keep going and going and going.
Well, thank you. I know that the girls sometimes are like, as Darian said, it's like 7 a.m. and I'm like, I got an idea, you know, and it is, you know, I came into the reality of living my dream and working full time as an entertainer late in life. So sometimes I feel like I have to hurry up, you know, and I am a bit of a workhorse. You know, I believe that I got excited when it was like the playing field was leveled. And I knew immediately, I'm like, I'm going to do well because I'm going to get that work. I reached out to World of Wonder, and we brought back This Is Shit and did that show with Brock McGillis. And you know, I just wanted to continue, and Steve and I did our story time. But I got on these gals, and I was like, let's do this, let's do that. And they keep me grounded too. You know, they know how to be like, enough from you for a minute. But the reality is too right now, it's like, now we've got to adjust to like staying up past 8 p.m. You know, we're going to have to do these late night shows and actually put on tights. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't even understand about the bottom part anymore. I haven't done that in the whole year.
You bring up a good question. What was that?
It's been a dry spell of a year.
Speak on it, sister. But so now, you know, hopefully gay bars will be opening back up and you'll be able to go out and perform. But a lot of the bars weren't able to make it through the pandemic. I'm wondering, for the gay community, what can we do to support our bars right now more than ever? Once, you know, the restrictions are lifted, what advice do you have to people to get out there and make sure that the bars that we're able to continue on feel that love, feel that support, and are able to make it? I want to start with Pandora first.
Well, I would say don't ask to be on a guest list. Don't ask for free drinks. Like, literally, you have to support like, this is the time that you need to pay and support and go out to shows and support these queens that have not been working. Because there are some queens that have done digital shows, but they don't have maybe the same opportunities that I have because I was on Drag Race and the following that I have. And they've started actual shows here, but it's for places that serve food. And the response has been great because people have missed it and do want to come out. and treat these employees at these bars really, really wonderfully and nice. Don't be an asshole.
I am hoping that will be one thing that comes out of all of this is we're not going to take gay bars for granted anymore. We're not going to take that entire scene for granted because we've missed it. We've missed that sense of community for over a year now. So if anything good happens, hopefully it is that. I know we're running out of time. I want to just ask a couple more questions. Angela, obviously this Workhorse Queen is screening as part of the Image Out Film Festival, and there will be a live screening on May 8th at the Dryden Theater. You can get tickets at imageout.org. It will also be airing virtually for, I guess, a week for New York State viewers. So also go to imageout.org for more information on that. Where else can people see this amazing film if they're not able to do so?
Oh, geez. Well, the same time that it's showing at Image Out, it's going to be still at the Calgary Underground Film Festival. It will be at the Indie Film Festival in Indianapolis. It will be at the Milwaukee Film Festival. You can follow by going to workhorsequeen.com. You can check out our social media, and we'll be updating all of the long list of other film festivals we'll be going to that I'm not allowed to announce yet. And then after that, it will be on a streaming platform and broadcast television. And I'm not allowed to say anything else about that or when. But
we won't say anything. No. Amazing. I want to ask our amazing queens, what's next for each of you? Can I start with Darian? What are you looking forward to now that pandemic is, God willing, slowing down? What's next for Darian Lake?
Yeah, well, I'm fully vaxxed and waxed and ready to go. Like starting the
ready
show
to
again,
mingle.
You know, exactly. I'm ready. I'm ready to do all of it, really. But like, especially with the shows, you know, I'm doing a dinner show at Roar on May 2nd, and then the drag brunch May 23rd, and then of course the comedy at the Carlson that we have a lot of fun doing. But then in the end of July, I'm going to the UK for a little tour. So I'm excited about that, you know, and traveling and getting out there. I was able to go to Grand Rapids like April 1st after I've been vaccinated. So I was able to perform there. And, you know, of course, with the masks and all that stuff, but we get the clear mask so you can really see what we're saying. So, but taking every precaution so far, you know. So, yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
And how can people follow you to make sure that they're keeping up on everything to do with Darian Lake?
Mostly, I would say that, yeah, it's just I'm Darian Lake at Instagram and Twitter, Miss Lake over at TikTok. So.
If you're nasty, yeah. And Pandora, what about you? What's next for Miss Pandora Box?
I think I'm going to leave the house, and that will be a good thing. But yeah, I'm excited to travel again and hopefully and go places because I didn't miss it at first, but now I kind of miss like traveling and seeing people and doing shows for like a live audience would be amazing.
What a concept, right? And how can people follow Pandora?
You can go to my website. It has all my links on it, and it's pandorabox.com. And there's an extra X in box because it marks the spot.
Lovely. And Aggie Dune, how about you? What's next for you?
Well, it's a very exciting time because, as they said earlier, we're going to be doing our comedy show at the Comedy at the Carlsons coming up. We have Drag Brunch coming back, and I'm getting ready to go pitch a tent out in the woods. Yeah, I'm going gay camping. Yeah, I'm in the camp back in camping down at Jones Pond right here, and we're going to be doing some shows down there. And you know, my next big project is obviously auditioning for RuPaul's season. What is it, 48 now?
27, I think. Yeah.
27. Yeah. Well. I'll be auditioning 27th time.
How can people follow Aggie Dune?
You can find Aggie Dune at Instagram and Facebook, and it's all at Aggie Dune. Always the same because apparently nobody else wants this name, but it's AGGY. Why? Because I love you. And Dune.
And Aggie merch as well for all your masks.
Oh yeah, they have Aggie merch. Oh yeah, I'm making the masks in such fashionable colors and so breathable and exciting. So you can get those there. And you know, and then I'm sure that Kasha has another project that she's going to be like, road trip. We're talking about Cleveland and going down and doing a comedy show down there. So that's we're just waiting for the contract. So we're hoping for those.
And the Cleve, tell us all about it, Mrs. Davis. What's next for the Davises?
So we've had a wonderful opportunity working with Comedy at the Carlson, and so I'm starting to make some connections with other comedy clubs. And myself and Darren and Aggie It's not finalized, but maybe it will be by the time this plays. We'll be, off to Cleveland. And my hope is to put a tour together to some other places that we've established in the past. Mr. Davis and I, after this, will recline on our new Lazy Boy recliners, whereupon we'll be celebrating his 56th birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Mr. Davis.
And as we sit here, we start to dream about the next couple of years. Our youngest daughter gets married, and fingers crossed. We don't want to push things, but grandkids, would be a lovely thing for us and hopefully for them. But I think continuing to establish the shows here in Rochester, touring will be great. And you can find me on InstaSnatch, Twitter, Faceplace, and TikTok, which I'm trying to keep up with those kids, but the TikTok, but I don't understand it. So Mr. Davis does that. But you can also call me on this phone as well. I do take calls, and you can leave a voicemail.
You can tweet
the cameos, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get a cameo.
You'd love to do cameos, and I keep it cheap because I have nothing else to do, and that way I could do a lot of them and hope that maybe they'll tell their friends.
Well, lovely. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone on the panel. You guys were all wonderful. You are literal legends. Rochester is so blessed to have such talent. And I want to say thank you to Angela for spotlighting what amazing talent we have. Thank you to Kasha and to all of you for opening up your lives. If you have not yet seen Workhorse Queen, now is your chance. Go to imageout.org, buy those tickets for the in-person screening on May 8th at the Dryden, or check out how you can watch the film virtually. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks again to our panel for participating. I'm Eric Resniak. You can contact me by looking at the stall in your local men's room or by following my podcast, Great Pop Culture Debates, on Instagram and Twitter. So thank you so much. Have a good one, and we will see you at the Image Out screenings.
Thank you.